Hey everyone, and welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Alyssa Ashe, and today is Monday, August 13th, 2018, and welcome to my nightly news recap. Tonight is going to be a blast. I'm going to be sharing different news stories with you guys from all across the spectrum: political, world, business, national, and just a huge variety. And of course, I want your input as well. So if you guys have any news stories you'd like to share with me that I may not have caught today, please send them to my Twitter at Alyssa RSBN, and I will throw that up for a second so you will be able to see it. And I wanted to first, of course, do what I always do at the beginning of my broadcast, give some shout outs to some regulars and some moderators in the chat room. We have a few moderators in here tonight. Guinevere, Real Frank in Florida, welcome. Thank you for all that you do and just for keeping the chat room clean, friendly, and providing information to all of our viewers. And we have lots of regulars in here as well. Light Switch, Carl Peterson, Malik Gregerson, The Real British Patriot, Mark Hannibal, DM, JC. So glad to have you guys all here tonight. Thank you so much for joining. And Great Riffy's here. Welcome. And Swoosh for Trump. Yes, he is very regular and always one of those first ones to comment. Thank you so much, Swoosh. And real quick, I just want to see who is over here on Facebook. Looks like Irma Hood, Alex Xavier, Sarah O'Brien, Francis Evans, Kelly Fleischman, Julie Meredith, Andrew Sova, Deborah Sparks, Rita Smalley, and let's see, Alba Gulen. Welcome. So glad to have you guys here. And our original moderator over here in the chat room, RSBN moderator or Mod Mom, thank you so much for being here. And also wanted to shout out those moderators on our website that we are very thankful for: Common Sense, Gleno, and Rickhaup. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Thank you so much. And yes, just like LJ says, another one of our moderators on our YouTube stream, make sure to share the stream to get those views up so that more people can watch. So thank you guys so much. It's going to be such a fun night. I'm so excited. So first, we're going to start out with a story that you may have already seen today. We streamed it on our website and our YouTube channel earlier today. President Trump signing the National Defense Authorization Act. So this was a huge deal, and President Trump is saying that the troops are going to see the biggest pay increase in a decade. So I'm going to share with you guys a little bit from foxbusiness.com. So President Trump said today that the new beefed up defense spending bill will provide U.S. soldiers with a significant pay increase in family housing. And he said, "We proudly give our troops the biggest pay increase in a decade." And the bill is aimed at rebuilding the U.S. military by authorizing a total of $717 billion for military funding over the next year. More than $11 billion is allocated for military construction, including family housing. And President Trump said, "We will replace aging tanks, aging planes, and ships with the most advanced and lethal technology ever developed." And yes, Swoosh for Trump, he did mention the Space Force as well. So he made the remarks at the signing of the John S. McCain National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2019 at Fort Drum Army Base in New York. And the H.R. 5515 bill was named after longtime Senator and Chair of the Senate Armed Service Committee, John McCain. And President Trump said the authorization of the defense spending bill will boost the size of the military. And he said, "We will increase the size and strength of our military by adding thousands of new recruits to active duty." And President Trump also added that a strong military requires a robust U.S. economy, which helps provide funding for new equipment, pay increases for soldiers and reduces the unemployment rate for veterans. And the president said the veterans' unemployment rate recently reached its lowest level in nearly 20 years. And yes, interesting comment from Duke. It was interesting that at his speech, the president did not mention John McCain, even though the bill was named after him. So going to take another look at that, kind of a different view. And this is from Reuters News. And so this one is actually titled Trump Signs Defense Policy Bill with Watered Down China Measures. So President Trump signed a $716 billion defense policy on Monday. And I've seen it, in different places. I've seen $716, $717 billion. So it's definitely one of those. On Monday, that authorizes military spending and includes watered down controls on U.S. government contracts with China's ZTE Corp and Huawei Technologies Co. Ltd. So President Trump signed the law at the U.S. Army's Fort Drum base in upstate New York on his way back to Washington after a 12-day working vacation at his golf club in New Jersey. And the bill was named for one of President Trump's political critics, ailing U.S. Senator John McCain of Arizona. But like we just talked about, he did not mention McCain's name. And we just got a $2 donation from Low IQ Person. Thank you so much, Low. Really appreciate you. That'll help us get to our next political rally, which is not tomorrow, but next Tuesday in Charleston, West Virginia. So we are really excited for that. Thank you very much. So Senator McCain said in a statement that he was humbled that the bill was named after him, adding that it will address a growing array of threats. And President Trump later made a reference to McCain at a political fundraiser in Utica, New York, knocking him for voting against a bill to repeal parts of Barack Obama's signature healthcare reform last year. So even though President Trump said that the bill is the most significant investment in our military and our war fighters in modern history. However, some are saying that Obama's first 3 defense budgets were larger when adjusted for inflation. And this is according to Todd Harrison at the Washington-based Center for Strategic and International Studies. So some are also saying that the bill is weak on China. Some lawmakers wanted to use the bill to reinstate tough sanctions on ZTE to punish the company for illegally shipping products to Iran and North Korea, but the restrictions included in the National Defense Authorization Act that passed Congress were weaker than earlier versions of the bill. So President Trump has lifted an earlier ban on U.S. companies selling to ZTE, allowing China's second largest telecommunications equipment maker to resume business and putting him at odds with both Republican and Democratic lawmakers. So leaders of the U.S. intelligence agencies have said they are concerned that ZTE, Huawei Technologies Co. Ltd., and some other Chinese companies are beholden to the Chinese government or Communist Party, raising the risk of spying. And the White House opposed putting stronger measures against the companies in the bill, and the measures were softened before lawmakers held their final vote. So the NAA does strengthen the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, which reviews proposed foreign investments to weigh whether they threaten national security, and that measure was seen as targeting China. So separately, the NDAA authorities spending $7.6 billion for 77 F-35 Joint Strike Fighter jets made by Lockheed Martin Corp. And the bill also directs the Secretary of Defense to study whether Turkey's planned deployment of the Russian-made S-400 missile defense system will risk the security of several U.S.-made weapons used by Turkey, including the F-35 jet. And the mandate to produce a study came after an earlier version proposed to bar the delivery of F-35s to Turkey. And prior to the ceremony, President Trump watched an air assault demonstration by U.S. troops at Fort Drum. And it looks like we just received a $5 donation from Ronnie Mercer, or Watchman117 on YouTube, who said LSU. Thank you so much, Watchman, for that donation. Really appreciate you. That'll help us to get to that rally next week. And I will tell you guys, not now, but a little bit later in the broadcast, how you can donate if you're not sure yet, or if you're new to RSBN. So please stay tuned. And just checking over on our other social medias on Facebook, just to make sure you guys don't have any questions yet. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Also wanted to move on to another one of our huge stories today, which I know you guys were very happy about. Now, former FBI agent Peter Strzok was fired by the FBI, and I know many of you were very, very happy about that. So I'm going to kind of break it down a little bit for you guys. We're going to look at a few different articles. First from Breitbart, and we will look at his Strzok's lawyer's statement as well. Let me pull that up for you guys. Okay, so before I get into all the information, I am going to show you the full statement from his lawyer. And I wanted to make sure I pronounce that for you guys. Eitan Goldman is his lawyer. So I'm going to switch over real quick, show you guys that statement. And I see your comment there, Brighton Cherrier, about Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein. I will save that and look into it later during the broadcast. Okay, so this is a statement I'm going to go through with you guys. Late Friday afternoon, the deputy director of the FBI overruled the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility and departed from an established precedent by firing 21-year FBI veteran Peter Strzok. In doing so, he reversed the decision of the career FBI official responsible for employee discipline, who concluded through an independent review process that a 60-day suspension and demotion from supervisory duties was the appropriate punishment. The decision to fire Special Agent Strzok is not only a departure from typical bureau practice, but also contradicts Director Wray's testimony to Congress and his assurances that the FBI intended to follow its regular process in this and all personal matters. This decision should be deeply troubling to all Americans. A lengthy investigation and multiple rounds of congressional testimony failed to produce a shred of evidence that Special Agent Strzok's personal views ever affected his work. In fact, in decades of service, Special Agent Strzok has proved himself to be one of the country's top counterintelligence officers, leading to only one conclusion: the decision to terminate was taken in response to political pressure and to punish Special Agent Strzok for political speech protected by the First Amendment, not on a fair and independent examination of the facts. It is a decision that produces only one winner: those who seek to harm our country and weaken our democracy. The FBI and the American people deserve better. And interestingly enough, this is so crazy. I'm going to show it to you guys right here. I'm not sure if you know yet. Peter Strzok has actually set up a GoFundMe page. Seriously, he set up a GoFundMe page, and I want to update it, make sure that, wow, it's increasing. Leftists are definitely supporting him. He has almost raised $80,000 in 9 hours of his $150,000 goal. It was set up by friends of Special Agent Peter Strzok. And it says all funds raised on this GoFundMe will be put into a trust dedicated to covering Pete's hefty and growing legal costs and his lost income. It says the trust is being created and details about its management will be shared here as things progress. We also appreciate your help spreading the word by sharing this link. Crazy. I cannot believe he has a GoFundMe page set up and people are actually donating. And then at the very end, it says, please note, due to federal ethics regulations as applied to the Securities and Exchange Commission, any donation whose source cannot be determined or which falls into one of those categories below may be returned. Any aggregate donor of $390 or more will be publicly disclosed. We cannot accept donations from any prohibited source as defined by federal ethics rules that apply to the agency, which include any person or entity seeking official action by, doing, or seeking to do business with, conducting activities regulated by, or having interests that may be substantially affected by the performance or non-performance of official duties. An organization, a majority of whose members are described above, or any employee below a senior officer at the agency. Really crazy. Guys, can you believe that he actually set up a GoFundMe page? I can't. And of course, I want to hear what you guys think about this as well. I know many of you don't like it. That's funny. Watchman 117 with a witty comment: if Peter thinks I'm going to fund him, he just struck out. Wow, that is insane. Cannot believe he started a GoFundMe page. And going to go into one of the articles right now. So, of course, President Trump was very happy that Strzok finally got fired. And President Trump said on Twitter, finally, the list of bad players in the FBI and DOJ gets longer and longer. And I want to find that tweet for you guys from President Trump. Okay, he had 2 tweets about it that I will show you guys. Agent Peter Strzok was just fired from the FBI. Finally, the list of bad players in the FBI and DOJ gets longer and longer based on the fact that Strzok was in charge of the witch hunt. Will it be dropped? It is a total hoax. No collusion, no obstruction. I just fight back. And then he had another tweet about it. Just fired Agent Strzok, formerly of the FBI, was in charge of the crooked Hillary sham investigation. It was a total fraud on the American public and should be properly redone. And I like to have a little segment. We're not going to do it right now, but a little later in the broadcast, we will go through all of President Trump's tweets because they're really fun and exciting. And he's always on top of his game and, traveling all over the country and really getting to know and endorse local and state politicians. So we will get into more of those tweets later. But now I want to keep telling you guys about what happened today. So Peter Strzok was fired by Deputy Director of the FBI, David Bowditch, according to his lawyer, who argued that it was politically motivated, and we just went through that statement. So Strzok sent many, and you guys know this, anti-Trump texts to fellow FBI agents, including his former lover, Lisa Page, while conducting the ongoing investigation of the president and his campaign. And President Trump argued that the entire Russia investigation should be ended as a result. President Trump said, like we just saw in the tweets, it is a total hoax, no collusion, no obstruction, I just fight back. And he also noted that Strzok ran the investigation of Hillary Clinton, calling it a sham. And he said it was a total fraud of the American public and should be properly redone. And one of our regular members, viewers, sponsors, all the things, the Millers, over in the chat room on YouTube right now. Thank you so much, Millers. Really appreciate you guys. And I want to find some more details for you guys about this story. So stay tuned. Okay, so here is some more information I'm going to share with you guys about how Peter Strzok was fired over his anti-Trump text. And this is from the Washington Post. And it was published today, just a few hours ago. So the FBI fired Agent Peter Strzok, who helped lead the Bureau's investigation of Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election, until officials discovered he had been sending anti-Trump texts. So Aiton Goldman, like we talked about before, who's Strzok's attorney, said FBI Director David L. Bowditch ordered the firing Friday, even though the director of the FBI office that usually handles employee discipline had decided that Strzok should face only a demotion and 60-day suspension. But Goldman said the move undercuts the FBI's repeated assurances that Strzok would be afforded the normal disciplinary process. And Goldman said this isn't the normal process in any way more than name. This decision should be deeply troubling to all Americans. And Peter Strzok wrote on Twitter, deeply saddened by this decision. It has been an honor to serve my country and work with the fine men and women of the FBI. And the FBI declined to comment, of course. So the termination is of course, downfall for Strzok, who is a 21-year member of the Bureau who investigated Russian spies, defense officials accused of selling secrets to China, and many other important cases. And in the twilight of his career, Strzok was integral to two of the Bureau's most high-profile investigations, the Russia case and the inquiry into Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server while she was Secretary of State. But when a Justice Department Inspector General investigation uncovered politically charged messages that Strzok had exchanged with another FBI official, he was relegated to a position in human resources. And conservatives soon made Strzok the face of their attacks against Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III's investigation of the president's campaign, and the FBI took steps to remove Strzok from its ranks. So conservatives today hailed the move, and of course President Trump, as you saw from his tweets, used it to suggest that the Russia investigation should be dropped and the Clinton case redone. And then it says his tweets again. I am not going to read that to you again. So actually the reaction among Democrats was more understated. Representative Eric Swalwell said that Strzok's firing did not undercut Mueller's investigation, which has produced dozens of indictments. And Swalwell tweeted, "Sorry, at Real Donald Trump, the hashtag Russia investigation is bigger than one agent." And now he has an interesting position, as I shared with you guys. So Strzok's team has created a GoFundMe page, like I just showed you guys, with a lengthy statement to raise money for his legal costs and lost income. And it said on the site that the firing was apparently driven by political pressure. And this says that the site had raised more than $65,000 by late Monday evening. Now it is up to almost $80,000, 79 something. I'm going to check it for you guys right now. Wow, I'm going to kind of keep checking it throughout the night if you want, if you're interested, but over $80,000. And I'll show you guys real quick. We're now at $81,723 here. I'll scroll down so you can see. Okay, you can't see because it's right under my little window, but trust me, or if you want to see it, you can just go to gofundme.com/Peter Strzok. And you'll be able to see. It's crazy. So anyways, Strzok was a senior level FBI employee. And because the FBI's number 2 official directed his firing, he has a few avenues left to get back to his job. And it was unclear whether he planned to pursue legal action against the Bureau. And Strzok's position in the Bureau had been precarious since last summer when Justice Department Inspector General Michael E. Horowitz told Mueller that the lead agent on his team had been exchanging anti-Trump messages with an FBI lawyer. And the next day, Mueller expelled Strzok from the group. So the lawyer, Lisa Page, who also had been a part of Mueller's team, although she left a few weeks earlier and no longer works for the FBI. As you know, she and Peter Strzok had been having an affair. And Trump has previously derided the pair as FBI lovers, and he and his allies have pointed to their conduct in an attempt to discredit the Mueller inquiry. So on Saturday, before the firing was known publicly, President Trump tweeted an attack on Strzok, Page, former FBI Director James Comey, and former Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. And Trump tweeted, "Will the FBI ever recover its once stellar reputation so badly damaged by Comey, McCabe, Peter S., and his lover, the lovely Lisa Page, and other top officials now dismissed or fired? So many of the great men and women of the FBI have been hurt by these clowns and losers." And Horowitz concluded that Strzok showed a willingness to take official action to hurt Trump's electoral prospects, particularly in a text he sent telling Page, "We'll stop," he said, "we'll stop Trump from being president." So Strzok, who was a deputy assistant director for counterintelligence at the Bureau, has apologized for sending the messages and said they reflected his personal views that did not affect his work. And his attorney has said that had Strzok wanted to prevent Trump's election, he could have leaked that Trump's campaign was under investigation for possibly coordinating with Russia, a revelation that might have upended his presidential bid. So also, Peter Strzok denied that he acted on his views. You guys all saw his congressional hearing last month. It was compared to a circus. It was crazy, lots of yelling from both sides of the aisle. It was, almost 9 hours long. We streamed it for you guys. It was a crazy hearing. So at the congressional hearing last month, Strzok sparred with Republican lawmakers who raised questions, naturally, about his character and his marriage. And he said that there was no evidence of bias in my professional actions. And his having to testify was just another victory notch in Putin's belt and another milestone in our enemy's campaign to tear America apart. So Strzok was escorted out of the FBI building in June and effectively relieved of his work responsibilities, but he still technically remained an FBI employee as he and his attorney challenged the effort to dismiss him. And back on July 24th, they made a final pitch to Candace M. Will, who leads the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility. So also his lawyer, Goldman, said that Will ultimately decided that Strzok should face a demotion and a 60-day suspension and be subjected to a last chance agreement. And that would have put him on thin ice if he were to commit another offense. But Goldman said Bowditch overruled that decision and ordered Strzok's termination. So during a June congressional hearing, FBI Director Christopher A. Wray said that Strzok had been referred to the Office of Professional Responsibility, which he called the Bureau's independent disciplinary arm, and that officials would not hesitate to hold people strictly accountable, and Wray promised that the process would be done by the book. So Strzok is the third high-ranking FBI official involved in the Clinton and Russia investigations to be fired amid an intensely political backdrop. And President Trump removed Comey as the Bureau's director and said he did so thinking of the Russia case. And Attorney General Jeff Sessions later removed Comey's deputy, McCabe, after the Inspector General alleged that he lied about a media disclosure related to Clinton. So McCabe, who, unlike Comey, could not be removed at the will of the president, has said his termination was a politically motivated attempt to undermine the Mueller investigation. And he is facing a criminal inquiry by prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Columbia. And McCabe's attorney wrote Monday of Strzok's firing. Another patriot public servant and defender of the FBI fired to appease the White House using an abbreviation for the White House. He said WH. So it is possible that others could face discipline. The Inspector General identified 5 FBI employees, including Strzok and Page, with some connection to the Clinton email case, who had exchanged messages expressing hostility toward Trump, support for Clinton, or other political views. And each was referred to the FBI for possible violations of the Bureau's Code of Conduct. So the Inspector General's office said it found no evidence to connect the political views expressed in these messages to the specific investigative decisions in the Clinton case. And its report singled out Strzok, though, for prioritizing the Russia investigation in October 2016 instead of following up on a Clinton-related lead. And Strzok's attorney has disputed that Strzok did not pursue the Clinton lead aggressively. So, very interesting article there. Now, if you guys have any more articles, comments, thoughts, opinions about Peter Strzok getting fired today, please share them with me. You can comment right here on YouTube. I am seeing your YouTube comments right here, and I really appreciate them. And, of course, you can direct message me on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN if you have any thoughts about this, or if you have a news story that I may have missed today. Please share it with me on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN, and I will share it with everyone. A good comment over here on YouTube from Malik Gregerson. He said, what I found interesting about Strzok's hearing was he consistently stated he didn't mean what he said, but your job requires you to always say what you mean to do your job. Otherwise, you would be forever clarifying what you said. Yes, thank you so much, Malik. Okay, so we are going to move on to our next story. Let's see. Okay, switching over, and I'm sure at some point we will get back into the political sphere because we are RSBN. But first, I want to share with you guys some world news, and this is from Reuters News. So, Cuba begins a public debate on modernizing Cold War era constitution. So, today, Cuba began a rare public discussion to overhaul its Cold War era constitution a process the government is calling participatory democracy at its best, and opponents are branding a fraud. So Cuba's National Assembly approved a draft of changes to the 1976 Constitution last month, including amendments that would pave the way for recognition of private small businesses and lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender rights. So the Communist Party proposed overhaul will be discussed in 35,000 workplaces and community meetings across the Caribbean island, scheduled to stretch into November. And once this debate is actually concluded, the legislature will approve a new draft and submit it to a nationwide vote in February. And Kevin, I see your question asking when is our next rally. It is actually next Tuesday, the 21st, in Charleston, West Virginia. We're really excited to go to it, and as soon as we finish up this story about Cuba's Constitution, I will share with you guys how you can help us get there. So while the state media have praised the participatory and democratic nature of the consultations, dissidents say the meeting will simply rubber stamp the changes proposed by party leadership. And with much fanfare in the state-run media, more than 1 million copies of the proposals have been distributed, and they're also available online. So a state-run health clinic in the capital Havana, a union leader presented at a state-run health clinic in the capital of Havana, a union leader presented the proposed changes point by point to some 50 employees. And while a few people asked for clarifications on individual amendments, no one raised any challenges to them. So Alina Murata, who is the head of nursing for the municipality of Central Havana, said, "We Cubans are going to ratify everything that has already been done, even if there are alternative proposals." And the draft omits a clause in the current constitution that enshrines the aim of building a communist society in Cuba. However, it does not change the irrevocability of the one-party system and socialist economy. So alternative systems of government have been dubbed counter-revolutionary since the late Fidel Castro's 1959 revolution, but the proposals enshrine a gradual social and economic opening underway since the fall of Cuba's former benefactor, the Soviet Union. And while there are no reliable opinion polls in Cuba, anecdotal evidence indicates many Cubans accept the gist of changes. And Isabel Palacios, who is a nurse at the Havana clinic, said, "I think the same-sex marriage issue is the most polemical of the proposals because it has never been discussed here." And she said, but one does what one wants with their life, and that is not a bad thing because we're all human beings. And however, Hildebrando Chavanio, who is a retired lawyer and dissident journalist, said many Cubans were afraid of repression if they spoke out publicly. And Chaviano garnered 189 votes for a ward delegate position in Havana in 2015, but was blocked by security agents from attending a nomination 2 years later. And he said, "Who were these nearly 200 people who voted for me? They are not part of my circle of activists. They feared speaking publicly because of repression, but when there was a secret ballot, they spoke." And let's see, a comment from Real Frank in Florida. He said anecdotal evidence shows that thousands of Cubans die at sea escaping communism. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, and jumping back over to the political side of things, and this is from Reuters as well. So finally, prosecutors rest the case against Manafort on the trial's 10th day. So today, U.S. prosecutors rested their case against former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort after 10 days of testimony alleging how he avoided taxes on at least $16 million of income and lied to banks to maintain an extravagant lifestyle once his work for pro-Kremlin politicians in Ukraine dried up. So more than 24 witnesses spoke about Manafort, who's 69. They said he is a lavish spender with little regard for the law. And a political consultant in the Ukraine, Manafort stashed his money in 31 undisclosed offshore bank accounts and skirted taxes on that income by wiring it directly to vendors to snap up real estate, bespoke suits, cars, and antique rugs. And this is what the witnesses said. So it's unclear whether Manafort's lawyers will call any witnesses, and legal experts say that it is highly unlikely that Manafort himself will take the stand. Closing statements could take place as early as tomorrow, after which the 12-person jury will begin deliberations. So if found guilty on all charges, Manafort could face 8 to 10 years in prison based on federal sentencing guidelines. And this is according to sentencing expert Justin Papperny. So the trial is in its 10th day in federal court in Alexandria, Virginia. And the case arose from U.S. Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation of Russian meddling in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. So one of the last witnesses for the prosecution was James Bannon, an executive at Federal Savings Bank, which extended $16 million in loans to Manafort. So Bannon said bank president Javier Uberri made an initial decision to reject a $9.5 million loan on Manafort's Hampton estate, but bank CEO Steve Kalk overruled it. And Brennan said about the loan, it closed because Mr. Kalk wanted it to close. And on Friday, a former salesman at Federal testified, said Kalk personally approved loans to Manafort while seeking Manafort's help in getting a job in President Donald Trump's campaign and his cabinet. And Federal Savings Bank has not returned calls seeking comment and has said it will make no comment during Manafort's trial. So when he was asked about whether the bank made money from lending to Manafort, Brennan said that the bank has written off the loans and took a hit of $11.8 million. And prosecutors contend Manafort hid a significant portion of the approximately $60 million he earned as a consultant for pro-Russian politics in Ukraine, and then lied to borrow millions more. And let's see, over on YouTube, just received a $10 donation from O Anon. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. And O said, we have already won. Just sit back and watch the evil vanish. Thank you so much, O. Really, really appreciate your kind comment there. And all these donations are really beneficial to RSBN. And I want to tell you guys kind of just a background of why So if you're not familiar with Right Side Broadcasting Network, we actually travel to political rallies all around the country. That is what we're known for, just traveling to those rallies and showing you guys the crowds. That is what RSBN became famous for, because the mainstream media does not show the thousands of people that are in these crowds at President Trump's rallies. And so it's our goal to do that for you guys, to get into the middle of the crowd, to interview people, to hear their stories, to hear their support of the president, why they're there, if it's their first rally, what they want to hear. And it's really exciting. So anyways, we travel to rallies all around the country. As you can imagine, it is very expensive. It's at least $5,000 per rally to go, because we have, travel expenses and lodging, rental cars, plane tickets, whatever it is, food, and just our actual paychecks as well. And then it is really expensive. The equipment is so expensive. We have to pay a few $100s each time we get that live view up and running to share the stream with you guys. So it is really expensive. And we are donor supported here at RSBN. So one way you can donate is actually by just clicking the $sign over here. It is in the super chat in that left bottom corner, right beside the smiley face for the emojis, is the super chat button. And that is definitely a blessing to us. So you can donate right here on YouTube. It'll come up in a bright color, and we will share it with you guys, and I'll share your message with you guys as long as it is appropriate, of course, and shout out your name. And I see British Patriot asking if LiveView sent the new unit. I forgot to ask Joe today. I know they sent it. I just don't know if we received it yet. We were supposed to last week, but we're supposed to receive a bunch of stuff tomorrow as well. So we might be getting that in tomorrow. So stay tuned. And also another way that you can donate is through our website. And I'm going to show that to you guys real quick. So you just go to rsbnetwork.com, and up on this red bar, you click donate, and you will be able to see the different options. So 3 options here. The first one is just paying with paying by PayPal or with a credit card. Okay, so you just enter your information right here, and whether you are using a debit or a credit card, your billing address, and your contact information. And another way to donate, maybe you feel a little more invested with RSBN, you really like what you're seeing, and you want to make sure that we are able to continue broadcasting and streaming the rallies for years and years to come. So you can actually donate monthly through patreon.com, and that's patreon.com/RSBN, but you can get to it with our website. You can see it up in the left corner right here, Patreon with an E, and this is how you become a patron, and you're able to donate monthly all the way from entry level all the way up to the all access level if you are donating $500 or more a month. And you actually get fun things in return too. So you get hats, pens, pencils, stickers, mugs, t-shirts, blankets, just different things to remember RSBN and to remember to watch us throughout the day. And of course, I'm going to back it up, show you guys that last way. If you're not comfortable donating online, we completely understand and respect that. You can send a check directly to our P.O. box here in Auburn. You just write the check out to RSBN, and then you can just send it to 1550 Opelika Road. You can see that address right here. Suite 6, Box 344 in Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Really easy way to donate, and it is so heartwarming just to see your donations come in and to be able to read those letters that you guys send. We appreciate them so much, and we do not take them for granted. So thank you very, very much for sending in those donations and kind letters. Okay, and I saw your comment, Brighton Cherrier, about the Epstein Bannon article. So I found one for you guys from page 6, and this is from August 11th, so just 2 days ago. I'm going to switch back over, and it's by Emily Smith, titled Steve Bannon Trying to Get on Disgraced Jeffrey Epstein's Good Side. So Steve Bannon shared a secret meeting with reviled billionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein at the financier's notorious Upper East Side mansion. So former White House chief strategist Bannon was spotted stepping out of his SUV and entering the registered sex offender's sprawling 21,000 square foot mansion at 9 East 71st Street shortly before 7 a.m. Wednesday. So Epstein's home is, well, this home, he has many, is one where young girls were allegedly brought in to perform massages and used as sex slaves, which is absolutely disgusting. And sources speculate that the disgraced Epstein wants to use Bannon's millions to work his way close to political power again. And one told 6-page, Bannon needs money to bankroll his political agenda. Epstein has plenty of money and craves power and access. And Bannon made an early morning beeline to Epstein, even though Bannon may have burned bridges when he savaged Ivanka Trump over her criticism of Roy Moore, whom Bannon backed despite claims the candidate had sexually harassed teens, inciting an allegation in legal papers from a woman that Donald Trump and Epstein had raped her when she was 13. Bannon said in response to Ivanka, what about the allegations about her dad and the 13-year-old? And Epstein has previously used his millions to cultivate the world's most powerful, but has mostly given money to Democrats. And from 2001 to 2003, Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's private plane, dubbed the Lolita Express 26 times. And Epstein is close to Prince Andrew and was a regular at Trump's Mar-a-Lago. And Trump told New York Magazine of Epstein in 2002, terrific guy, he's a lot of fun to be with. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. So Epstein, 65, pleaded guilty in 2008 to soliciting prostitution from a teen and served 13 months in jail. And last year, he reportedly paid billions to settle 3 lawsuits filed against him by teens and Bannon's representative didn't comment. A lawyer for Epstein said, "Let me ask him," but did not respond by the deadline. And I'm just getting some news in from you guys. JC and DM, thank you so much for sharing it, about 14 cars set on fire in Sweden near a shopping mall. So I'm going to try to get more information on that for you guys. Wow, and I don't have any information yet, but I do have a video I'm going to show you guys. Of the 14 cars on fire in Sweden near a shopping mall. So you can see the fire here. Dark smoke rising into the air. So definitely a heartbreaking, scary situation. Please keep the people involved in Sweden in your prayers right now. And let's see. Okay, so I just found some information from the dailymail.co.uk. So it states dozens of cars are destroyed as gangs of masked youths go on firebomb rampages in cities across Sweden. So police said they were dealing with fires in Gothenburg, Malmö, and Helsingborg, and around 80 vehicles were reportedly vandalized with stones thrown at police, and emergency services were tackling the fires with no reports of any injuries. So dozens of cars were set alight and stones thrown at police as gangs of masked youths went rampaging across Sweden on Monday evening. So fires were reported in Malmö, Gothenburg, Helsingborg, as dramatic footage showed youths targeting vehicles in a shopping center and hospital car park at Frölunda Torg in the west of the country. So the latest group of youngsters apparently gathered in Trollhättan, north of Gothenburg, where as many as 40 people threw stones and started fires. And I just showed you guys this footage, showed cars burning bright orange in a large car park at Frölunda Torg, which includes a specialist hospital and a major shopping center. So there were also reports of young people setting cars on fire in Hajalbo to the northeast of Gothenburg, in Malmo at the southern tip of the country, and in the city of Helsingborg. So emergency services were tackling the apparent outbreak of violence with no injuries reported, according to the Swedish police. So that is great. And all the fires had been extinguished by midnight, and police said the identification of young people was ongoing, although it was not clear if any arrests had been made. And police said while most fires started within a short period of time, it cannot be excluded that there is a connection between the fires. The case will be investigated. And Swedish National Radio reported that around 40 firefighters were in action tackling the different blazes. So around 80 vehicles have been vandalized in total, according to Swedish television, with 3 caravans and a truck also targeted, and witnesses describing dark-haired youngsters launching the attacks. And this violence comes just 3 weeks before Swedish voters go to the polls in a general election. And I'm going to switch over, and I want to share this video with you guys. Okay, I have it pulled up, so I'm going to switch back over, and you can actually see the hooded men setting the cars on fire. And this is from the Daily Mail too.
Nej.
Jo, jag ska ta våra bil med. Jag tar våra bil med.
Vänta. Det är bilbränder. Hur fan? Vad fan har han på med?
De kommer ta våra bil med, Robban. Jag går ner till gatan. Fan.
Du får vänta tills polisen kommer för att flytta bilen.
Jag måste ringa 112.
Ja, men det måste ju. Jävlar, de har tänt eld på bilarna här. Så helvete, hur många bilar har de tänt eld på?
Men våran bil kommer ju också...
Nej, jag springer ut och...
Nej, Robban. Kom, vi går in till Samuels rum.
Fan håller de på med alltså?
So insane. And this happened just earlier today, and I saw the British Patriot commenting, it looks like they're using flares. It kind of sounded like it too, or something of that nature. Really heartbreaking and ridiculous. I mean, think about it. You're just trying to go to the mall. It's a normal day, and you come out and your car is on fire. Really ridiculous. I'm going to show you guys. There's a couple more pictures of the smoke. And this was near a shopping center and specialist hospital at Frölunda Torg, southwest of Gothenburg. And around 60 vehicles had been vandalized in total, with stones also thrown at police by masked men. And over on YouTube, just received a $10 donation from Diego Lou Sampson. Thank you very, very much. And he said, "Hi, Alyssa, excellent work." Thank you so much, Diego Lou. Really appreciate you and how you always faithfully donate to RSBN. We wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you so much for donating. Okay, and I want to kind of try to find more information, if it's available, about these fires. So this is from Jalop Nick. A little bit more information for you guys. So a group of more than a dozen people described as youths are setting groups of parked cars on fire in what appear to be coordinated acts of arson, according to multiple sources on Twitter. And BNO News reported via Twitter that fires are in western Sweden, and multiple sources indicate they're being started by people dressed in all black clothing with Molotov cocktails, which you saw in the video. And the fires were reported in Göteborg and Trollhättan. And looking at some past articles, it looks like this is something that has been happening for a while. And I want to check Twitter too, just to see if there's anything else on it. This is another video, just kind of a different viewpoint, showing the accused running through the parking lot.
De kommer ta våran bil med, Robban. Jag går ner till gatan. Fan.
And you can kind of lightly hear the screams in the background.
Du får vänta tills polisen kommer för att flytta bilen.
Jag måste ringa 112.
Ja, men det måste ju. Jävlar, har de tänt eld på bilarna här. Så helvete, hur många bilar har de tänt eld på?
Men våran bil kommer ju också...
Nej, jag springer ut och...
Nej, Robban. Kom, vi går in till Samuels rum.
Fan håller de på med alltså?
So you could see them just going through the parking lot in broad daylight and setting off what we think are flares. Really crazy. And here's just a better picture of the cars engulfed in flames. Let's see, a reporter, Matthias said West Sweden hardest hit by car torching and riots. In Trollhättan, 30 to 40 youths have built barricades and attacked the police with rocks. 6 cars are torched. And there's just another view. You can see the cars aflame and heavy smoke going into the air. And let's see, another viewpoint. Kind of from up ahead, you can just see the fire. And police are on the scene. You can see the firefighters putting out the fires. And then the remains. I would read this to you guys, but it is in Swedish, so that's not going to happen. But anyways, switching back over, and I do want to see you guys' stories as well. If you have stories that I may have missed today, please share them with me on Twitter at Alyssa RSBN, and I will throw that Twitter handle up for you guys. Okay, it is at Alyssa RSBN. So if you have any stories you'd like to share with me that I may have missed today, please do. It doesn't have to be anything big. It could be a local story really special to you. That's fine too. I will share it with everyone. So feel free to send it my way. Okay, and a story that I want to share with you guys that I haven't yet. It came out just a few days ago, actually, but I have one we can listen to as well. The Omarosa tapes. I know many of you are probably wondering what's going on there. You want to know more. She was on Celebrity Apprentice with President Trump, and she was a former White House aide. So I'm going to share with you guys, kind of just to break it down a little bit, some information from The Guardian. So Omarosa Manigault Newman has released secret recordings of her conversations with Donald Trump and his chief of staff, John Kelly, which have made international headlines, but have also left lingering questions. So, kind of breaking it down, what happened? So, Omarosa says she secretly recorded Kelly firing her in the White House Situation Room in December 2017, which is supposed to be one of the most secure rooms in the White House, if not the most. And she played this recording on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday. And on Monday, she released another recording aired on NBC's Today program, in which President Trump appears to express surprise she has been ousted. And that's the one I'm going to share with you guys as soon as we get through all of this. So she's a former White House aide. She had previously been a contestant on Trump's reality TV show, The Apprentice, and she shared the recording as part of her promotional tour for her new book about her stint in the White House, Unhinged. And The Guardian first reported excerpts from the book, which also included claims she said President Trump has used racial epithets. So kind of going through to see if this is normal. So Juliet Kayyem, who is a former assistant secretary for intergovernmental affairs in the Department of Homeland Security, pointed to Newman's recording device as signifying the lack of security culture in the Trump administration. And she pointed out instances such as White House staffers working without security clearances, President Trump using an unsecured phone, and his 2017 dinner with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe about North Korea among dinners at Mar-a-Lago. So Bradley Moss, who is a national security lawyer in Washington, noted it was unusual for a personnel meeting to happen in the Situation Room. And in his opinion, the most obvious reason would be that the White House had its own suspicions that she was the type of person who might try to secretly record the meeting and put it in the Situation Room. So when asking, is this a security risk, Moss told The Guardian that Manigault Newman's use of a recording device presented counterintelligence risks. And Moss said, all it takes is one foreign agency hacking and setting it to passive record mode. And the result would mean that all conversations, not just those Manigault Newman chose to record, would be accessible to foreign entities. And this concern was shared by Kayyem, who said there might be the perception, particularly by our enemies, that the entire White House might be compromised, and that's kind of scary. And she said the audience isn't just us and Omarosa and Trump. It's the Chinese and the Russians. And when asking if recording in the Situation Room is a crime, Moss said just because the conversation occurred in the Situation Room which is actually a series of connected rooms, there is no real obvious criminal liability. All staffers entering the area must lock away their cell phones and other insecure electronic devices, but he noted that a violation would likely be enough to deny Manigault Newman a security clearance if she ever wishes to work for the federal government again in the future. And when asked about this, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said the very idea a staff member would sneak a recording device into the White House Situation Room shows a blatant disregard for our national security. And she added, then to brag about it on national television further proves the lack of character and integrity of this disgruntled former White House employee. And I have one of those recordings I'm going to pull up for you guys. And I apologize. This is from CNN, but it still shows the recording. Okay, I'm going to play it for you guys now.
Omarosa, what's going on? I just saw on the news that you're thinking about leaving. What happened?
General Kelly came to me and said that you guys wanted me to leave.
No, nobody even told me about it. Nobody,
Wow.
you know, they run a big operation, but I didn't know it. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
God damn it. I don't love you leaving at all.
I don't love you leaving at all, he says, acting as
Trump, sorry, mic back on. So President Trump said, I don't love you leaving at all, sharing that he did not know that she was going to get fired. So that was really interesting, and we'll have to see, you know, as the story continues to develop, because apparently she does have more tapes that she is planning on releasing. Okay, I'm going to switch over to another story I have for you guys. Stay tuned. I'm sorry I have 100 tabs open on my computer trying to multitask, broadcast, and produce at the same time. It's not easy, but it's definitely a lot of fun, and I'm really thankful that I get to do it for you guys. Okay, so a fun story for you guys from Fox News. President Trump dares New York Governor Cuomo to run against him in 2020, saying anybody that runs against Trump suffers. So President Trump spoke today at a fundraiser with New York Republicans, and he dared Governor Andrew Cuomo to run against him for president in 2020 and said he welcomes the challenge. And President Trump was in Utica and he said, please do it. Please. Anybody that runs against Trump suffers. And President Trump, during the event for GOP Representative Claudia Tenney, who's running for re-election, told the crowd that Cuomo wants to take away your Second Amendment more than anything. And the president also claimed that Cuomo called him and said, I will never run for president against you, but maybe he wants to. Cuomo is currently running for re-election as governor, facing a primary challenge from the left from actress Cynthia Nixon. And he reportedly agreed Monday to debate her last month. So Cuomo did not immediately respond to President Trump. And earlier he said in a statement to the president, despite being a native New Yorker, since you took office, you have attacked our health care, passed a tax law that punished New York in order to fund corporate tax cuts, ripped immigrant New Yorkers from their families, launched an assault on their environment, and determined the basic values on which this state and our nation were built. And during the fundraiser, which was opened to the media, President Trump spoke on a wide range of topics and took aim at New York Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, referencing his past donations to her. And President Trump said, she's been up to my office looking for campaign contributions. She is very aggressive on contributions, but she's not very aggressive on getting things done. And ahead of midterm elections, the president portrayed California Democratic Representative Maxine Waters as the new face of the Democratic Party. And jokingly, he said, Maxine Waters, she's a real beauty. And I see you guys commenting about pronouncing Governor Andrew Cuomo. Cuomo, is that it? Watchman 117, trying to say it right for you guys. I apologize for that. And I do apologize when I mispronounce things. I know I see you guys sometimes frustrated in the comments because of that. But just know that I'm still kind of new to the political world. Just graduated from college back in May, and I am doing my best. But I'm sorry for the times that I mess up. And I also wanted to share with you guys, this is from today as well, and this is from Reuters. So a U.S. judge is allowing the Mueller case against Russian company to proceed. So a U.S. judge on Monday backed special counsel Robert Mueller in the federal Russia investigation, allowing a case to proceed against a Russian company accused of helping fund a propaganda operation to sway the 2016 presidential election in Donald Trump's favor. So Judge Dabney Friedrich, in an opinion filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, rejected an argument by the company Concord Management and Consulting, LLC, that Mueller was unlawfully appointed and lacked prosecutorial authority. So Friedrich wrote in her opinion, by investigating and prosecuting Concord, the special counsel did not exceed his authority. And she also rejected the company's argument that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, acting on behalf of Attorney General Jeff Sessions, after his recusal, was out of bounds in bringing Mueller to investigate the alleged Russian meddling. So Concord's lawyers, who did not immediately respond to requests for comment on Monday, had argued that Rosenstein violated the Appointments Clause of the U.S. Constitution in hiring Mueller in May 2017. So Friedrich ruled that the U.S. Supreme Court and Circuit Court rulings made clear that Rosenstein did not have statutory authority to bring in Mueller. So prosecutors contend Concord is controlled by Evgeny Prigozhin, a businessman identified by Russian media as being close to Russian President Vladimir Putin, and who U.S. officials have said has extensive ties to Russia's military and political establishment. So the company is one of 3 entities, along with 13 Russian individuals, indicted by the special counsel's office in an alleged criminal and espionage conspiracy to tamper with the 2016 U.S. election, boost Trump, and disparage his Democratic opponent, Hillary Clinton. And Russia has denied any involvement. And President Trump said there was no collusion and blasted the investigation by Mueller, a fellow Republican, as a witch hunt. And many of you are saying that President Trump just released some new tweets about Omarosa, so I'm going to check that out. Okay, I found that most recent tweet, so I'm going to share it with you guys. So he tagged Mark Burnett TV, and he said, Mark Burnett TV called to say there are no tapes of The Apprentice where I used such a terrible and disgusting word as attributed by wacky and deranged Omarosa. I don't have that word in my vocabulary and never have. She made it up. Look at her recent quotes saying, and it looks like a thread, but I'm not seeing those recent quotes. And here is Mark Burnett's page. It says official Mark Burnett Twitter page, taking you backstage behind the scenes of some of the biggest hits on TV. And he hasn't posted the rest of that tweet yet, so stay tuned and we'll show it to you guys. And I want to back up a little bit and just share with you guys all of his tweets from today, as I always like to do. Okay, and some more tweets about Omarosa. He said, wacky Omarosa, who got fired 3 times on The Apprentice, now got fired for the last time. She never made it, never will. She begged me for a job, tears in her eyes. I said, okay. People in the White House hated her. She was vicious, but not smart. I would rarely see her, but heard really bad things, nasty to people, and would constantly miss meetings and work. When General Kelly came on board, he told me she was a loser and nothing but problems. I told him to try working it out if possible, because she only said great things about me until she got fired. And then he said, while I know it's not presidential to take on a lowlife like Omarosa, and while I would rather not be doing so, this is a modern day form of communication, and I know fake news media will be working overtime to make even wacky Omarosa look legitimate as possible. Sorry. And then later on, he tweeted out, the very unpopular governor of Ohio and failed presidential candidate at John Kasich hurt Troy Balderson's recent win by tamping down enthusiasm for an otherwise great candidate. Even Kasich's lieutenant governor lost the governor race because of his unpopularity. Credit to Troy on the big win. And we were able to hear Troy Balderson speak, and one of our reporters, Tom O'Neill, actually got to interview him in Ohio, and so that was very exciting. And some that I shared with you guys a little bit earlier when we were on the Peter Strzok story. Agent Peter Strzok was just fired from the FBI. Finally, the list of bad players in the FBI and DOJ gets longer and longer based on the fact that Strzok was in charge of the witch hunt. Will it be dropped? It is a total hoax. No collusion, no obstruction. I just fight back. And then he said, just fired Agent Strzok, formerly of the FBI, was in charge of the crooked Hillary Clinton sham investigation. It was a total fraud on the American public and should be properly redone. And he also tweeted, Rocky Omarosa already has a fully signed non-disclosure agreement. He also tweeted out congratulating Brooks Koepka. He said Brooks Koepka just won his third golf major, and he did it not only with his powerful game, but with his powerful mind. He has been a man of steel on the tour and will have many victories, including majors, ahead of him. Congrats to Brooks and his great team on a job well done. And he retweeted from Michael Cohen, LTO, the many dozens of hashtag journalists who called me questioning Omarosa's claim in her new book that President Trump took a note from me, put it in his mouth, and ate it. I saw no such thing, and I am shocked anyone would take this seriously. And then Frank Luntz tweeted this out, and President Trump retweeted this. I'm in Omarosa's book on page 149. She claims to have heard from someone who heard from me that I heard Trump use the N-word. Not only is this flat out false, I've never heard such a thing. But Omarosa didn't even make an effort to call or email me to verify. Very shoddy work. And he tweeted out when he landed in Fort Drum, New York today to sign the Defense Act. He also endorsed Pete Stauber. He said Pete Stauber is running for Congress in Minnesota. He will make a great congressman. Pete is strong on crime and borders, loves our military, vets, and Second Amendment. Vote for Pete tomorrow. He has my full and total endorsement. And he also tweeted out with some pictures. It was my great honor to sign our new defense bill into law and to pay tribute to the greatest soldiers in the history of the world, the U.S. Army. The National Defense Authorization Act is the most significant investment in our military and our warfighters in modern history. And here are some pictures at Fort Drum. And he also endorsed Scott Walker of Wisconsin. He said Scott Walker of Wisconsin is a tremendous governor who has done incredible things for that great state. He has my complete and total endorsement. He has brought the amazing Foxconn to Wisconsin with its 15,000 jobs and so much more. Vote for Scott on Tuesday in the Republican Party, in the Republican primary. Okay, and he just a couple minutes ago tweeted out the rest of that tweet about Omarosa. But for those of you that may have missed it, I'll read the first part first. At Mark Burnett TV called to say there are no tapes of The Apprentice where I use such a terrible and disgusting word as attributed by wacky and deranged. Omarosa, I don't have that word in my vocabulary and never have. She made it up. Look at her many recent quotes saying such wonderful and powerful things about me, a true champion of civil rights, until she got fired. Omarosa had zero credibility with the media. They didn't want interviews when she worked in the White House. Now that she says bad about me, they will talk to her. Fake news. So those are the most updated tweets on the Omarosa story, and I will keep you guys updated about that. Okay, checking my Twitter right now just to make sure you guys have not sent me any more story ideas. So Jeff Hollifield reminded me on Twitter about the stolen airplane in Seattle, which happened recently, but I haven't talked about it yet. So thank you, Jeff, for reminding me about that. Okay, and I found some information about it for you guys from USA Today. So an airport worker's deranged flight in a stolen commercial jet risked hundreds of lives as he flew very close to highly populated areas before he crashed into a forest. So Richard Russell, 29 years old, swiped the empty plane from Seattle-Tacoma International Airport on Friday and began a 75-minute flight complete with barrel rolls and darkly comedic running commentary with air traffic controllers trying to talk him down. So Russell declined a suggestion to land at nearby McCord Field, saying he might mess something up at the Air Force Base, and that comment may have reflected his determination not to hurt anyone, says Peter Golitz, a former managing director with the National Transportation Safety Board. And Golitz told USA Today that was telling, but the truth is that on any one of his maneuvers, the plane could have stalled. There were a number of catastrophic things that could have gone wrong. He was not a trained pilot. And the FBI said late Sunday that the data recorder was recovered along with components of the cockpit voice recorder, and the equipment was sent to the National Transportation Safety Board for processing. And human remains were also found, and the medical examiner's office in Pierce County, Washington, confirmed that Russell died in the crash. So the Bombardier Q400 that Russell pilfered is a turboprop, and this is a jet engine in which a turbine drives the propeller that seats 76 people, and the plane was owned by Horizon Air, in turn owned by the company that owns Alaska Airlines. So Russell, 29, had worked for the airline for 3.5 years and had full credentials to be near the plane, according to Alaska Airlines CEO Brad Tilden. And Russell's duties varied widely from handling luggage and cleaning out planes to towing, de-icing, and directing them toward runways and gates. And he tapped some of those skills to steal the plane. And Golis said the way planes are turned around fast is that folks multitask. That's the way fares are kept lower. And authorities say Russell used a vehicle on the tarmac to point the plane toward the runway. And Russell, who was in uniform when he entered the plane and walked into the cockpit, didn't need a key, but he did need to activate a series of switches to get the plane into the air. And Tilden said, "This is aviation in America. The doors of airplanes are not keyed like a car. There is not an ignition key like a car. The setup in aviation in America is we secure the airfield." And Tilden said the tragedy will push the industry to ensure that a similar incident never happens again. And Russell told ground control that he had played enough video games to figure out how to fly the plane, and he said he was having a blast and initially suggested he might try to land. And he joked, "You think if I land this successfully, Alaska will give me a job as a pilot." But he later confided to controllers that he was just a broken guy. So military jets were flying nearby for most of Russell's flight, and air traffic control suggested he land at McCord Field because it was only about 30 miles south of the Seattle-Tacoma airport, but Russell apparently had no intention of landing the plane. And Russell told air traffic control, "I've got a lot of people who care about me. It's going to disappoint them to hear that I did this." And his family released a statement saying they were stunned and heartbroken, and they described him as a warm and compassionate man. And the statement said he was a faithful husband, a loving son, and a good friend. So that is definitely a heartbreaking story that I'm sure you guys may have seen just a couple days ago. So I think that is all I have for you guys tonight. But thank you so much for joining me here on Right Side Broadcasting Network for my nightly news recap. And remember, you can always share your stories with me on Twitter. Even if I'm not broadcasting, I'd love to hear them and share them the next day. So please stay tuned and keep up with us tomorrow for more broadcasts during the day, and of course my nightly news recap in the evening. So thank you so much for being here, for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you so much and your support. And once again, for Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Alyssa Ashe. Have a great evening.